Shehu and Jide, as Prof was talking, it brought up the issue of institutional knowledge. And I see you guys have gone back to this slide. But before we talk about this one, I just want to ask, especially you, Shehu. Again, we're seeing a large movement. Many of the old-time senators are not coming back. The same thing in the House of Reps. New people are coming. So it reduces, doesn't it, the number of people who can put new ones through the process of National Assembly legislation and so on. You and I were discussing a few days ago, and we were talking precisely about this.
Absolutely. There is an institute, legislative studies, which is meant to help give orientation to newcomers into the National Assembly. And I have a feeling that it's about a week or two or so that the lawmakers, before they gather for plenary and when the National Assembly is being convoked, they usually have this kind of orientation. And beyond what is being talked about and how to move a motion and how to draft a bill and all of that is the issue of politicking, which is at the heart of lawmaking. You saw what happened over the 8th Senate, the politics within the ruling party. The ruling party appears to be fighting itself. First, they started with who is going to be the Senate president, and that dragged along. It went into the Green Chambers also, where some people were meeting in this same hall that every one of us are looking to, the ICC. That's when some leaders of the APC at the time, 4 years ago, were meeting. Meanwhile, the Senate president was being installed there by members of the National Assembly. So it's an interesting scenario. Politicking is a whole lot of issues. Some senators will tell you that when you hear sometimes that there's going to be a motion being moved, you don't blink, you don't step out. When you want to go to the bathroom, you do that early enough, because if you step out before you come back, the motion may have been moved and it's going to be a significant one. So all of these issues, nobody will teach you right in those orientations. It will be taught by experience. So a lot of issues that we discussed earlier, when we discussed the issues of possible scenarios that may play out. And I wanted to also play on our minds again today. The big question I dropped here: what happens? Should there be a tie in this election? Or what happens if the candidate with highest number of votes could not make the required spread? What are we talking about? We did say this is how a winner will emerge. That is the room where that will be announced today. The Nigerian legal winning formula for the presidential election is 1/4 of 25 states. So Ladi, Jide, and Ijoma and Nelta, this scenario, what if it plays out?
It could play out. We'll talk about the scenario. But something you talked about, and I think during this period of elections, we also need to focus on it. Listen to what Ronald Reagan once said. He said, the most frightening word in English language is, I'm from the government, I'm here to help. In this period of election, we must focus and remind ourselves that the government isn't the strongest institution in our country. It's the private sector. It is you and I. The only reason why we keep talking about the government is because we all share the government. So this time around, it has to be a government that is more private sector centric than government centric. So as long as government feels that the power belongs to them, then we will not be making progress. Even if we look at the size of the economy, the private sector contributes over 80% to the size of our over 127 trillion naira GDP. Government accounts for less than 10% of the GDP. That is a statement of fact. So we need to realize that even though it's a season of elections, and we'll look at those 25% concerns, the issue is whenever we're talking about elections, we're actually talking about everyday Nigerians.
Interesting one. Wherever you may be watching, this is still the robust coverage of the 2019 presidential election and of course the National Assembly election. The collation and the announcement of results still ongoing. There's been a break, and that's why we're engaging you to give you some sense of what is happening here. Ladi, Ijoma, and Nelson have been leading the presentation of this robust coverage for the moment. Jide and I are just providing some help in terms of the possible scenario that could play out.
Are you about to make, because I'm
Okay,
wondering, I'm wondering where you're going with that. But
sorry, Cheryl, can you clear this up for one of our viewers? And concerning the run, if there is a runoff, he wants to understand exactly how many days it will take, as it wasn't clear when we talked about it the last time, and the spread. So the ratio, how long it will take. He heard it when we were talking about it earlier, but not too clear. So just clear that up for the
Great.
viewer.
I understand now that it's been 21 days for the conduct of a runoff. So a runoff is a second or the third ballot. If you cannot determine the winner in the first ballot, either because of the fact that you have a tie or because you cannot have a spread. Don't forget, the formula is you must have 1/4 of votes in at least 25 states.
Exactly. And since all focus is on everybody wants to take the president's seat, we then should ask ourselves, what states has the president failed to get 25% in all his previous elections? And if we look at that carefully, the South, Rivers, Delta, Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa, 5 out of the 6 states in the South, in all his previous 4 elections, is yet to get 25%. And if you look at Abia State, you look at Enugu State, Ebonyi State, you look at Imo State, those states in previous elections, those 5 states in the Southeast, the president is yet to score up to 25% in those states. But we've seen the results from Abia State. 2015, the president had the margin of defeat of over 300,000 votes. He has cut that down to 1/3. So we see a lot of progress in that first state that's come out from the Southeast, Abia State. But again, the opposition still believes that there's a lot of, and when we say opposition, we're not just talking about the major opposition party. We're talking about those other parties that were on the ballot. They still have a chance to pull surprises in this election.
2 states, Ladi Joma and Nalta, that we need to watch out for. And those are the home states of the leading candidates, or the 2 major candidates and the political parties, where they're from, and the significance of some of these states. And sometimes they say, where I'm from, they say that it's from home that you show just how powerful you are. So within these areas, Atiku Abubakar became a governor-elect before he was seconded to be a vice president under Olusegun Obasanjo. So he's had a victory here at some point. How familiar is he in terms of winning in Adamawa State?
We cannot speculate, but I will tell you a bit of history. For the very first time, candidate Buhari won in Adamawa State in 2015. And a lot of people attribute his success in Adamawa State in 2015 to the presence of Waziri Adamawa. So we'll look at if those sort of permutations will still happen this time around, or if the major opposition candidate, Atiku Abubakar, will be able to win Adamawa State, or perhaps one of the new or other opposition parties will spring a surprise in Adamawa State. But again, for the first time, candidate Buhari won Adamawa State in 2015. Katsina State, where he is from, in all his elections, he always gets a margin of victory over the PDP of above 1 million in Katsina State. So in 2015, candidate Buhari had a margin over the PDP of 1.2 million votes in Katsina. Those sort of big numbers could damage any opposition party if he's allowed to continue with such big numbers.
And those figures are not there for candidate Atiku Abubakar, are they? Not up to 1 million that anybody could win, is it?
Not up to 1 million. So candidate Abubakar will be looking for his own 1 million states. And those states are Rivers and Delta State.
So another area that candidate Atiku Abubakar may be looking forward to is here, Sokoto State. You remember, one of those who gave Atiku Abubakar a run in that election, the primary election of the PDP, is the governor, incumbent governor there, who moved, a former House of Representatives speaker, who moved from the APC to the PDP. What impact could he have on the possibility of the of PDP getting some figures there? Don't forget, former Governor Wamako is also from that state. He's a senator in the APC.
So I spoke to some of the families living in Sokoto State, and they say that the problem that a lot of opposition parties are making in Sokoto State is that they believe candidate Buhari is a candidate, that in Sokoto State, Muhammadu Buhari is more of an addiction than being a candidate. And so the only way you can successfully defeat Muhammadu Buhari, based on their own testimonies, is to treat him like an addiction, not like a candidate. In Sokoto State, in all his previous 4 elections, he always wins in Sokoto State. So it'll be good to find out if this time around the presence of the governor, and especially a lot of House of Rep members, will be able to influence those kind of results for the major opposition
What has been like the outing of the PDP here over the last few elections, Jide? Kaduna State is a 3rd largest voting population in Nigeria. Kaduna State, how significant?
So here, again, perhaps the person that holds the secret and who can teach any opposition party what can happen in Kaduna State is former President Obasanjo. In 2003, when he contested against candidate Muhammadu Buhari, OBJ defeated Muhammadu Buhari in Kaduna State. But ever since 2003, candidate Buhari has been winning in Kaduna State. So it will be interesting to find out if the alliance of the former president and the Waziri of Adama will be able to provide some inroad for the PDP in Kaduna State.